Hello friends. Now we've all been there where there was either this one question in the interview that we didn't answer properly, or maybe it was the entire interview which was not up to the kind of performance we expected to deliver. Now we cannot go back in the history and redo the interview. However, there are certainly some steps that you can take in order for you to cover all your bases and still make sure either you still stay in the race and go to the next process in the interview or the hiring process, or if anything else, you learn from it and you get better for the next interview, whether it's in the same process or in some other company for some other opportunity, and you're prepared for that even in a much better and stronger way. So let me share out those techniques or those ways you can come out of a bad interview, recover from a bad interview, and show up even stronger. Remember, anything that doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So let's talk about in this video, how do you become stronger? Now, number one is to make sure to be kind to yourself. When you will come out of an interview, you will certainly be more critical about how you performed. You must be thinking about those small ifs and buts that you said and you shouldn't have said it this way or said it that way. However, note that most of this that you are thinking is your spotlight effect, because you are paying attention and you are really focused on what you said, how you delivered, and you are being extra critical. Maybe all of this was not even a thought for the interviewer because they may not even have noticed. It is just because you have the spotlight effect and you are all concerned how you appeared, while for the interviewer, maybe they had a small spotlight on themselves as well because they also wanted to make sure they come across as someone smart and intelligent and worthy to take your interview. So you may have very well made some mistakes or some errors, some small skips here and there, which were not noticeable at all. But if you overthink and don't forgive yourself or don't be easy on yourself, you will be going into a downward spiral with regards to your mental situation and may not perform good in the upcoming interviews. So chill out and be forgiving. Also, no matter how much you prepare, not everything will go as per plan. We've all had those moments, call it an interview or a presentation or a meeting, where we didn't or could not perform our best. So don't dwell upon the mistakes that you did or fixate on them. Rather, think about how you can come out of those mistakes, learn and improve for the next time. Now here, before we go into the learning process, it is very important for you to reflect on the interview. What is that went well? What is that was okay, average, and what is that was a real disaster or went bad? For this, one tip that you need to consider is as soon as you're done with the interview, take notes. Make sure you recall everything that was said by the interviewer, all the questions that the interviewer asked. Take notes of all of those things and how you responded. Or for each of those responses that you gave, what were the mistakes you did? What were the things you could have improved? Now, one call out before we move further. In case you find any value from this video, don't shy away from pressing the like button and also the subscribe button. So one, this keeps me motivated. Second, you get notified as soon as I put a new content on this channel. On this channel, I post content twice a week regarding personal finance and career success for early and mid-career professionals. Additionally, if you want me to continue making unbiased content like this, you can support me on patreon.com. I will leave the link to my page on patreon.com in the description of this video. Now let's get rolling back into the video. Now here, one cheat code, which is if it's a remote interview or an interview which is online, I would recommend you record it. Of course, if you ask the interviewer and try to record it using the application that you have on your laptop, then either they will know, or if you ask them, they will certainly disagree. So don't use the application on the laptop. Rather, what I recommend is that you make use of your phone and just record the voice. You don't need the video. It is a proxy to taking notes. So not many people would be comfortable doing this and may not find it morally okay. For me, it is just as if you are taking notes. So either you listen to the interview, you deliver the interview, you try to remember things, and as soon as the interview is done, you take notes, or keep life easy for yourself, which is record the voice, and then as soon as the interview is done, you take notes from the voice and then just delete the voice because you never requested the permission of the interviewer for recording. So it's best that you get rid of it and delete it as soon as possible. The idea here is just to take notes. And the reason you're taking notes is for you to reflect on what you said, what was asked, and where did you make a blunder. And again, as I previously said, don't overanalyze. There will be certain mistakes that you may have done, could be wrong grammar, could be something that you said which wasn't like a thread or which wasn't very clear in terms of how you were explaining the example, and maybe the interviewer asked you to clarify further, or maybe he or she didn't even notice what you said or if you made any mistakes. It's just that you were overthinking. So when you take down your notes or when you listen to the recording, think of the parts which were the strongest, because these are the parts which you need to repeat in the coming interviews because they were strong. Think of the parts which were okay, which you may have thought you made a mistake, but when you re-listen to the interview, it really didn't pop out as something major. And then the parts which were really an issue, which you really want to handle and fix going forward. Now comes the part of damage control. Here, we will focus the damage control on the big mistakes. Again, make sure you evaluate the big mistakes, and those big mistakes are really a make or break mistake. Like they will really be damaging to your interview if you don't fix them. Because there might be mistakes which you may have done, but they might not be a make or break issue. For instance, I have an e-commerce business and I wanted to talk about my e-commerce business as well in the interview because I wanted to tell them that how I am not just a finance leader, but I also understand e-commerce, not just because I work in e-commerce at Lego, but also because I have a side business on e-commerce and I understand marketing and sales of e-commerce. And it's just that during the interview, it kind of skipped and I wasn't able to share all this info. I really think this was an important piece and I can kind of score more points by sharing this, but I missed it. It is fine. It is not the end of the day as long as I had other good things going on for me in the interview and I missed explaining something or highlighting something on my profile with regards to my history or my work experience. It is just fine as long as I had better things to talk about and the time was over. But if there was something which was kind of a make or break, for instance, they were looking for a merger and acquisition experience, or they were looking for an experience in SAP, a particular system or a process, and I didn't answer that particular question well enough for them to be satisfied. So for instance, they asked me a question, are you familiar with using SAP? And I say yes, and they ask me to give an example. And suddenly I just go blank because I don't have an example where I made use of SAP. And I go like, maybe I can come back to you later on this particular question. And I never had a chance to come back to them on this question. Now this is the one where I need to damage control because now I need to get back to them and try to defend my position and make sure it is not taken as a negative. So once you've really identified the make or break mistakes, here we move to the next step. Here we will make use of the thank you email, whereby first and foremost, you thank the interviewer for the opportunity and their time, but then go ahead and explain and cover the damage or to recover from the damage that you did in the interview. However, make sure it is very concise. If you are writing paragraphs of explanation with regards to something that you said in the interview, then just don't do it because that means that the damage was so big that it would be almost impossible to curtail, or at least you think it was so big that it would be impossible to even cover it in the email, and the interviewer won't have a lot of time to read through all of that. It really has to be 1 or 2 lines, and that's it. If it's not concise, it's more than 1 or 2 lines, and you cannot concise it, then just don't talk about it at all. Maybe they didn't even notice. Also make sure that it sounds very casual as against sounding apologetic. Don't apologize. Just say, thank you for your time and the opportunity. I just want to share this additional information which I was not able to share in the interview with regards to certain question that you asked, and here is that information, and that is it. It should be a matter of fact email as against trying to show desperation or being apologetic. You didn't do any mistake and you shouldn't come across as someone who has made a mistake. You should just come across as someone who was not able to share complete information in the interview just because the interview's time and the format is limited, and hence you are using this format of thank you email to share that additional information, and that's it. Now let's say you do the damage control. You send the email, and even after that you just get rejected and not get hired or do not move further in the process. Just note that you spent a lot of time. One, preparing for the interview. Second, finding that slot from your day job to appear for the interview. All of this is a lot of work. And if you get rejected, at least you deserve to know why you got rejected. Most of the companies will give a very standard response. We had better candidates and your qualifications didn't suit our profile, that profile we were looking for. That is all fine. But I still urge and strongly recommend you pick up the phone or you write to the recruiter and tell them that I want 10 minutes of feedback session from them. Ideally with the hiring manager or with the interviewer themselves who rejected you. If not, then at least with the recruiter, because you want to know exactly what is that you did in the interview which was not at par with their requirements. So you learn, so you know and you register, because otherwise you're just blank, right? So the idea here is not to challenge the decision, and you make it very clear with the recruiter or the interviewer that I respect the decision. Thank you for the opportunity. However, I would still like to have 15 minutes of connect with the interviewer or the recruiter to understand how you can improve and do better. If you come across someone like this, if I'm the recruiter, I would be more than willing to give you that time, connect with you and explain to you that you said certain things or you came across in a certain way which made us decide over another candidate versus you. So for you, this would be something that you need to register, learn and improve in the interviews that you would be taking in future. So the idea here is you get better. You invested so much time and you should at least get to know what you did wrong. So it is at least a learning opportunity. Otherwise, it's just a failure for you and you learn nothing. It's okay to fail. It's okay to fail as long as you learn something. So this part of seeking a feedback is super important. Just repeating myself, but make sure you put the recruiter or the interviewer at ease. Tell them you're not challenging the decision. You respect the decision. What you want to understand is how you can do better. That's it. So now comes the next part, which is whatever feedback you get, you need to translate it into a learning experience. Is it that you are out of practice? Because the interviewer will give you certain elements which they would be translating from the language they speak. Let's say the interviewer goes about saying that we asked you a question on leadership and the example you gave wasn't strong. Now, is the issue that the example was not strong, or the issue is that the delivery was not good enough? Or is the issue that you missed certain facts about the leadership in your example? So you need to translate in your head what is that you missed and you need to improve. So you need to think about that, because one answer could be simply you just need to practice more, or another answer could be you just need to focus more on the example and elaborate more. So it depends what the issue was. Now this can only happen once you marry the notes that you've taken after the interview with the feedback you got, and you put them both together and then see what is that you need to fix with regards to that particular example or that particular factor. Now the next thing that you can do after taking the feedback is to plan your next move, which is when you appear for the interview next, how do you make sure you don't repeat the same mistake? If it's just about preparation, then you just need to practice more and more. If it's about that particular question that you didn't do well and wanted to elaborate more, then that is the piece that you focus. So next time when you appear for the interview or any other interview with any other company, you are much more or better prepared to ace it versus what happened last time. And lastly, my friend, you just need to continue searching for that right job. Getting rejections is just part of it. You will do blunders in the interview, but when you do these blunders, you'll get better because you learn, you apply that learning, and you'll continue to get better and better till you reach the job that you really want. And by that time, you've aced the skill of interviewing to the extent that you really ace it. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully this video was helpful for you to now be able to recover from a bad experience, gather all that learning and ace the next opportunity that you get. Thank you.